Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do for the channel is amazing. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our good friends at Critical Failures, where we're part of a live game that streams live every Wednesday night, and they're then reposted the next day, so you can check up and catch up really quickly. With all that out of the way, we're going to talk about an oldie but a goodie. We're going to talk about the Champion Fighter. The Champion Fighter comes to us from the Player's Handbook. This was one of the first fighter subclasses that was printed out, and I gotta be honest, as we go through the abilities, I'm really surprised that this doesn't get more multi-class. Personally, I think there's a couple of things here that are pretty good, but it's one of those things that surprises me. It is it's not a flashy class, so if you're looking for something that's going to be like, oh, like it has all these great abilities and whatever, this is more so of a passive evolution of the base fighter. Now, the base fighter is enough as its own to carry you through an entire campaign, because of you gain so many ASIs, you have the ability to pick up a lot of feats if feats are being used, and you can do a lot just with action surge and the multiple attacks that you get. So if this doesn't seem super flashy or really like seem as, you know, as comparable to some of the other subclasses, understand this was from the first book, and this was built to, it's a very easy and easily understood subclass that does give you a couple of really strong tricks. So when you pick this subclass at 3rd level, you instantly get improved critical. Beginning when you choose this archetype at 3rd level, your weapon attacks score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20. Now, a lot of people gauge the way percentages work for a d20 as a 20 is a 5% chance of hitting. This doubles that. So you will very often, at least that's the idea behind this, crit more often. Obviously this does kind of sway you towards certain weapons, as certain weapons are better with critting than others. And just for the sake of argument, I just want to put my standpoint on this. In regards to critting with a weapon like a greatsword that does 2d6 damage, some people have argued the way the rules work, it should be adding just 1d6. I think that's dumb. I think you should double the dice, not the size of the dice, and you should be doing 4d6. Personally, I know that's been debated and argued before, and maybe an official ruling has come out, but that's where I stand on it. It's just a silly little thing that was, especially earlier on in D&D, that was more of a talking point. I don't think it's so anymore, but I just wanted to throw it out there anyway. At 7th level, you gain Remarkable Athlete. You can add half your proficiency bonus rounded up to any strength, dexterity, or constitution check you make that doesn't already use your proficiency bonus. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you can cover is increased by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier. This is a two-pronged effect. First and foremost, it does encourage you more so to use strength, which is not unusual in the fighter world. Though you can be sword and board and be dex based, in which case strength really isn't your forte. But it does encourage you to kind of use bigger weapons, have that bigger weapon damage die, which means you'll need strength, and it makes your long jump that much further. Long jumping isn't something you encounter a lot. You can, especially once you get an ability like this, cover a pretty sizable distance by doing that jump. Just kind of be wary of the rules and make sure you familiarize yourself with it so you're not doing things that don't make sense or not using the actual movement correctly. It can be a little tricky, especially with some of the wording, and considering how rare you see characters jumping, it might be something to definitely brush up on before you use. At 10th level, you gain an additional fighting style. You can choose a second option from the fighting style class feature. There's a bunch of fighting styles. Pick what you like. There's a bunch I like. Personally, most of the time people will be picking up the one that gives them 1 additional AC to kind of offset the opportunity of you carrying a 2-handed weapon, because again of improved critical. But the extra defense doesn't hurt, especially considering how 1 point of defense can make from armor class can make a difference. That you're just that much harder to hit. If you get like a ring of protection or a cloak of protection, it now is the equivalent of carrying a shield. It works. It helps, especially with heavy armor. You can get your AC up pretty high. At 15th level, now this is the point where very rarely do you get a lot of campaigns that push up this way. Currently, there are campaigns coming out that push all the way to level 20, so that's a great thing that I'm super, super happy about. But a lot of times, if you hit 15th level, you're probably at the very end of your campaign. But you get superior critical. Your weapon attack score a critical hit on a roll of 18 to 20. Now understand, that is a big jump. There's very few options that give you that critical range. That being said, you're attacking 3 times per round without using action surge. When you do, you can bump that up to doing 6. So, with 6 attacks, you can definitely get a lot of crits with this. If you were in a situation where you have advantage, the opportunities for you to crit go through the roof. That's multiple crits a turn, which is feasible because of what you're doing, because of your superior critical. It does work with everything else. If you were going to multi-class into Barbarian and pick up a couple of levels, you'll get brutal critical, which works with just improved critical, which you add an additional damage die when you crit. So if you're looking to crit fish, that's a great way to do it. But again, this is 15th level. So at this point, you have some crazy weapons that do additional things. You know, we have weapons that add on additional damage, and all that damage crits more often. It's just a big critical strike percentage increase. And finally, at 18th level, you gain Survivor. You attain the pinnacle of resilience in battle. At the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your Constitution modifier, if you have no more than half your hit points left. You don't gain this benefit if you have 0 hit points. So, understand, at 18th level, you're going to have a +5 to Constitution as a fighter. It's going to happen, and it's the smart thing to happen. So you're gaining back 10 HP per round. So, how does this measure up when people are hitting you with high-level spells, the enemies have multiple attacks, and with all this other stuff? The offset of your AC is going to reduce the chances of you being hit by most physical attacks. You'll be able to dodge a very big portion of them because your AC can very easily go upwards of 20 because of magical items or certain things that you choose, or even certain builds. If you still went sword and board and still got a whole bunch of defensive items, yeah, your AC is pretty high. In conjunction, what that 10 HP per turn does, realistically, it reduces the overall damage you took from that round. You have a big hit die. You are going to be getting hit no matter what. You are the fighter. You will find a way to do it. So that isn't meant to heal you to full while you stay in the back and shoot arrows. The real theory behind it, at least from my perspective, is that it's damage reduction over time. If you're fighting one enemy and they miss all their attacks, then you just gain 10 hit points. If you got hit with 1 or 2, then you just reduce that damage by 10 as long as you survive, which is pretty reasonable being a fighter. The fighter Again, you gain so many great abilities just from being a fighter. The incredible amount of attacks you get, the martial weapon proficiency, the heavy armor proficiency, the shield proficiency, the constitution proficiency bonus and saving throws. You get a lot to work with. I personally think the fighter is better than most melee options because you just get everything you need. Attacking 3 times at level 11 is huge. And it's easily attainable. Second wind, action surge. Like you have a lot of cool stuff that can keep you going. The champion fighter does not give you any cool trick attacks or specialized things that you can do. It doesn't let you cast magic. It's not the battle master, which gives you a couple of different skills that you can use per turn, per day or whatever. But it does improve on the base things of a fighter. You gain survivability, your strength makes you a little bit more maneuverable, and you can hit harder more frequently. As far as simplicity goes, this is it. This is the simplest subclass you will see, period. After this, every single subclass is significantly more complex. There's very few subclasses that have limited actionable abilities like this does. This is all passive abilities. These are just always on. I personally still think the champion is very viable. Grab a heavy weapon. You don't want to think too much. There you go, champion fighter. It's all you need. It'll get through everything. This is like the almost like this is like the action movie fighter, where all you do is just swing a sword. That's it. You don't do anything special. All you do is swing a sword. You jump in, you swing a sword. That's it. You keep doing it till you're done. That's really what this class is. But I still believe that there is a lot of viability here because it just ups your damage. That's it. That's all the subclass does. You put 2 fighters together that have and the longevity of this abilities, because the only thing you have to worry about is action surge and second wind. So there's just one final thought we have in regards to this. If you're making a monster be a character, this is something that would be amazing. If you were going to build a null species as a player character, this is a fighter that would make a lot of sense with them. You just run in, you're just rabid, and you're just crazy. You're unorthodox, you just hit a lot because you're quick enough. That's the subclass, and you can hit hard. A lot of the monstrous races that aren't really intelligent or don't have an innate spellcasting, this subclass actually fits really well with them. You throw this on a bugbear, you can throw this on a very unintelligent hobgoblin, you can throw this on minotaurs, and it works because it's the simplicity of the fear that comes from these monstrous species that really drives that home. But with all that said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you like what you saw here, definitely hit that like and subscribe. Definitely check us out on Patreon if you're interested in. And a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to us. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.